Some say, when hell reaches its maximum capacity, that the souls of the damned will return to their rotten bodies and join us in the land of the living. If this is true, then this truly is a world of darkness. Hello, I see we have come back again to do a little discussion, and I could tell you about another one of the creeds, maybe Mercy, but no, today I want to cover the most basic antagonist you may find yourself hunting, or monster. I sometimes like to call these guys a hunter's first monster, as a little joking reference to their occasional simplicity. But do not mistake the simplicity or relative ease for an easy time. They are perfectly capable of killing even a professional hunter if they are unprepared. These are the Walking Dead. Now, I do feel making a slight distinction. I'm not referring to vampires or that kind of thing for today's venture. Basically, that's a discussion for a whole nother day. No, the Walking Dead that I'm referring to are basically zombies. Ghouls are a debatable term in some cases, but it kind of depends on your definition. But no, I'm talking for the most part about classic George A. Romero zombies. Heck, in some places he was so close to right, it almost makes you wonder if he knew more than he let on. But that's not the point. There are three major types of zombies. Now, you might think this might boil down to a classic video game, like, oh, we got the basic zombie, or the fast zombie, or maybe a brute. Well, no, slow down. It's not quite like that. There are three types. One are called the Shamblers. These are the most basic type. They are your classic in pretty much every sense zombie. Slow moving, dumb witting, rotting. They're basically exactly what you think they are. Now, of course, they aren't the toughest creature to fight. They're relatively fragile. Their greatest strength, however, comes in their numbers. They almost never travel alone and often in large groups. So yes, one may be relatively easy to take down, but you'll basically never find them like that. Of course, you know, explosives could help, just suggesting. But one of the greatest horrors about them is how people tend to overlook them. Now, granted, despite people's amazing ability to ignore monsters right in front of their faces, however, even these stretch the limit of the human's ability of denial. No, even if a normal human gets close enough to one of these Walking Dead, the Shambler type, even they will notice that they are obviously undead, and will very quickly react in a way appropriate. They do not seem to spread via infection, but reports are varied. We are working with, a bunch of people on the internet. However, they are very obvious and relatively easy to deal with. The second type, which I will deem as the weakest, although that's to your personal preference, are called the Walkers. Think of them as slightly more intelligent, slightly more put-together versions of the Shamblers. However, they do have a very limited range of movement for some reason. I sometimes wonder if they inspired the legend of the, forgive my pronunciation, Quenchi? I can never say it right. To any people who do happen to know that, don't feel bad to tell me. But basically Chinese vampires. I wonder if they would perhaps be a slightly connected term. But no. They are a bit more direct. They generally come back with some kind of purpose in mind, a basic reason. Some suggest they might be possessed by ghosts. However, I've seen ghost possession myself, and they tend to be a bit more advanced than these guys are working with. However, they are often able to fool people into believing they aren't in fact dead. Which, helps. But they're very direct, which is both a good and bad thing. Good in the sense that they aren't going to make massive plans around you, and they don't generally have the intelligence for it. The downside being, of course, is that they aren't going to give you any time to plan around them. Ultimately, though, they do come down to a very simple blow it up with a shotgun. At least, I would hope so in most cases. However, they usually come back with a purpose, and, well, sometimes figuring out that purpose alone is enough of a tricky issue. The last type I will discuss to you today are called the Hidden. These guys are actually really good at hiding. You might think vampires are good at hiding, and to a fair extent they are. But the Hidden are something else. Despite being a very literal rotting corpse, people just ignore them. In fact, what's terrifying is unlike the other two types, they're able to move around in society relatively unabrupted. They're able to hold down jobs. They're able to drive cars. They're able to shoot guns. They're able to be in politics. Well, maybe not so much that last one, because they are described as a bit dull and slow-witted. But then again, I also use to describe most politicians. So, take it or leave it. However, they do seem to lack the ability to learn new skills, but they do retain any skills they seemingly knew in life. This is terrifying, as that effectively means that your threat is an intelligent zombie who is perfectly capable of, at least to some degree, planning around you. That's not exactly good news. And then there are tales of zombies' more obscure powers. For instance, I've heard a report that zombies are capable of, for lack of a better term, regenerating. Now, this might make some sense, because, a rotten corpse, even if people ignore it, isn't going to, be around very long. However, it is horrifying with the speed some reports say they can do this. Some say they can be nearly blown to bits and return. Others suggest that if you don't destroy the brain, then they will always come back from an injury, therefore making a zombie kill impossible. Some even suggest harder that it might take fire or magic or holy light to destroy such an unfouled beast. But overall, I would say zombies are one of your weaker threats. Their greatest strength is in numbers. Of course, there is a horror to them, beyond the horror of an infection, which is mostly circumvented, seemingly, by you guys who seem to be immune to most supernatural afflictions. But of course, it's not even confirmed if these zombies populate this way, and given the fact they've seemingly been operating for a long time, would imply they're either very picky about when one gets infected, or not so. But then again, things change. But no, the ultimate horror behind them is twofold. One, on the more practical level, is they are literally rotting corpses. Like, yes, a vampire is technically undead. Yes, a werewolf is a shapeshifter. Yes, a mage can mess with reality. But think about all those three groups, or even most other beasts you'll fight. They, generally speaking, have a way to hide that is more than just plot armor. A vampire looks human enough if you just, most of them at least. As long as you don't see them drinking blood, you might just think they're a goth or a businessman or something. A werewolf, yes, they might turn into giant flesh fur hybrids, but at the end of the day, they're, they can turn to a human form and, unless some superstition is to be believed, become indistinguishable from the average person. I mean, are you really going to start shooting people just because they have a bit more muscle or fur? And mages are even more terrifying, as there's often very little to distinguish them from another person. Yes, they can bend reality, mess with the fabric of the universe, or cast dark magic, but they generally look human. And even by other hunter standards, it's often very difficult to tell them apart from other humans. But a zombie is different. It's a rotten corpse. It doesn't generally put much effort into hiding. All those groups have to put effort into it. They don't. The human masses are so cattle in many ways that they will not notice the walking dead. Have you ever considered all those people you saw walking down the streets that had their head in their phones, seemingly not care about the world? Were they in fact just random teenagers or zombies simply masking themselves? Was the invention of so much of distraction of modern media simply allowing them to hide in plain sight? These are the questions I ask you. Of course, I don't have an answer. Well, maybe I do, and I'm just not telling you. It doesn't really matter. The point is, that's horrifying, regardless of what the answer is. It doesn't stop it from being horrifying. The second one, and what I hinted at the start of this conversation, is simple. The dead have returned to the land of the living. Why? Why would such a... Now, ghosts are one thing, but a rotten zombie is breaking all the rules of biology, science, and many of religion or faith. Why are they here? What has brought them back? And that is terrifying, because that means there was something very wrong with the universe. Something far more wrong than any rotten corpse could ever be. Anyway, that's where we shall leave off our discussion this night. Next time, I think I'll talk about one of the other creeds, or by creeds I mean virtues. See you then. Yeah? Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.